PennsPeakRadio.com.
Penn Speak Radio, the bump and grind. We're going to have an exclusive with Henry Paul of the Outlaws. We want to welcome to the show. Henry, are you there?
I am here. I'm pouring my third cup of coffee.
Well, that's all right. I'm on my third bottle of rum. Listen, Henry Paul, wow. To be able to have you on the show is certainly extraordinary. And those of you that know the Outlaws know Henry Paul. Maybe those of you that know the Henry Paul Band know Henry Paul. Blackhawk know Henry Paul. It's been a long time since Kingston, New York, born on a farm a long time ago.
Yes, it has. It does. My life. I live my life in 10-year increments. And so I have a real unusual sense of relativity from the standpoint of the past. It's like everything is just the other day for me. It just doesn't. Time doesn't. It's almost like it stands still, and that I'm just living in this constant youthful moment of musical euphoric bliss.
I'll tell you, man. What you do on stage, I mean, it plays out on stage. I mean, your legendary performances are still just that, very legendary. They're absolutely incredible, and you're still at it. You're knocking it down. You're going back into the studio with the Eagles, right?
Yes, absolutely. And, one thing I was going to say about, the word legendary gets passed around once you reach, a certain sort of mile marker in your career, when you cease to be trendy and you start to it turns more into being lucky. That you're alive and that you can still play. But, I will say this on the Outlaws' behalf. This is one thing I think is, for me, most important. And I've seen this analogy drawn in similar circumstances with sports personalities, and that is, can you play at a high level? Are you a competitive musical, entity and able to play at a high level? And one thing I think I'm most proud about the Outlaws is that after losing Huey and losing Billy and losing Frank and surrounding myself and Monty with old friends that have played numerous musical shows with us over the years, that were able to put the Outlaws music on stage and play it at a very high level. And without that, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, that was going to be a question. I mean, you lost some major players in the band, somebody that right there with you on stage, friends, I'm sure, but then also people there, and I'm sure took a lot of wind out of your sails in particular as a founding member of the band, and also the others that have since passed on.
Well, and if you look across the landscape, I mean, Amy Winehouse, this business is particularly harsh, and the Tucker Band and the Daniels Band and the Almonds and the Skinner Band. I mean, it's just pervasive how fast the fire burns. And so, again, the question is, are you going to really put the Outlaws out there? Or are you going to put some tribute band up there? Or do you have any creative mojo left? Or is there anything foundation-wise to build a future for the band with? And personally, I feel like the Outlaws are exceptional in that we have a great creative foundation to grow the band. New life. It's like a plant. Just grow new limbs.
That's right.
New branches. Grow new leaves and bear new, fruit. I mean, it's very exciting that way. And, of course, standing on stage with Huey Thomason and feeling his musical talent, is quite an incredible, I don't know what the word is. It's more like a phenomenon.
I mean, it was certainly amazing, and that's evident with what you're saying, bearing more fruit and growing new limbs. Just what we mentioned here just a couple of minutes ago. Back in the studio, you will be with the Eagles and coming up with some new material, things that you're doing with the band and your current members. It's a great thing. I mean, you certainly have some talent that are going to be joining you on stage. I mean, these guys are incredible.
Yeah, well, thanks. And it's like when you go to see a band. I mean, even a classic rock group. I mean, does it really look like a rock group? Does it really feel like an energetic evening of mayhem? And hopefully, people that come and see the Outlaws will feel the intellect of it, because there is a lot of thought that goes into what we do. And I'm not saying that it's highbrow, but there are some intellectual issues that the band really demonstrates. And then there's these physical issues that we still possess that allows us to really bring an A performance. And so So, to me, if there's after 40 years, 3 or 4 different groups, if there's a bright light at the end of this tunnel, it is the Outlaws' creative character and physical energy.
Yeah, well,
that's it.
It's certainly very well said, and you've seen it all. I mean, from the streets of Greenwich Village, when you moved down to Tampa, came back to New York City. As I read in an article somewhere down the road, I make some notes for myself. I try to read up. Well, I mean, this is my era of music. I mean, into the 70s, into the 60s, 70s, and continuing to be my music with what you put out, the Outlaws, which what Skinner has put out, with Ronnie Van Zant putting out, Black Hawk putting out. This is my era as well. And moving into Tampa, which you did when you were young, and then coming back to Greenwich Village, New York, to pursue a career in music. And your hero, I think, was once said by you something Bob Dylan played on the streets and followed in his footsteps.
Yeah, Bob Dylan, I remember being a high school, probably, 65, 66, sitting around my living room, like on a Friday night. My mom was gone to bed or whatever, listening to The Times They Are A-Changin', and just the attitude, the sneer in his voice, and those messages that were so well crafted of change. And I don't know, man, he really he lit everybody up. I mean, from John Lennon to Bono to everybody that is in this line of work. From Bruce Springsteen, we know and appreciate his
Exactly, yeah, his contribution to the music world and the story that he told. It's got to be interesting too. Something I read, and this goes back into the probably into the early 70s, when Clive Davis actually found you guys and signed you to I think it was Arista Records back in the early 70s, I believe. Having somebody of Clive Davis's stature come up to you guys, discovering you guys, and then signing you to your first record deal. I mean, that ought to be something special. I mean, it's been history ever since, but that ought to kick some ass right there.
Yeah, it's the music business is a business of make-believe, and Clive's reputation to a large degree is make-believe.
Yeah, because how was it with him? I guess that's the point I'm trying to throw in here. We've anybody that's been around the music scene or listened to music or seen any kind of thing on TV or read anything, we can all say, oh yeah, I heard of this guy Clive Davis. I mean, how was that whole relationship? Because make believe.
It was sort of like we were subjects to His Highness, and it was we were the legendary status of his career at Columbia, with signing Sly and the Family Stone and the Winners, Johnny Winters, and Bruce Springsteen, and cutting a deal with Bob Dylan that enabled Bob Dylan to continue to have this brilliant career. Just his whole aura was like magical, and in large part it sort of replicates the magical sort of make-believe character of the music and film business. It's all predicated on hype. If you go see, for instance, a film like Mystic River, and you see this gorgeous performance by Sean Penn, and you come away from that movie going, yeah, the movie business is make-believe, but that was real. And you come to see, just as an example, the Outlaws, and you go, yeah, there was a lot of corporate money behind that band to get it where it got, but that performance tonight was emotional and human and real. And so, to separate the fact from fiction, ultimately comes down to your performance. Does the band have talent, and do they have communication skills? And playing on Clive Davis's label, we were subjected to enormous expectation and hype and stories. And in large part, it always came down with the Outlaws to what a great show they played.
That is just with your analogy right there. Henry Paul of the Outlaws fame, right here with us on the show as an exclusive. Something that you just mentioned there, which was very interesting. A while back in the studio, I had Willie Nelson's son. He mentioned something. He's young. Puts on a hell of a show. Incredible, I think, musician. I think he does such an absolutely unbelievable job. And, he mentioned something, too. He said, doesn't matter if I'm Willie Nelson's son or not. He said, if I can't get up there and I can't play and I can't deliver on stage, which is your point exactly, who has been around a long time, it's not going to last. And that's why Henry Paul and the Outlaws are going back into the studio and more fruit to bear with a brand new CD and going in there with the Eagles. And I can't thank you enough for the interview. If there's anything that you want to add to what we can expect on Saturday, please feel free to do so. But it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Well, thanks, Doc. And I'm gonna hop. I've got rehearsal in about 15 minutes, and we're working up some new songs for Saturday night show. And awesome. I hope I get a chance to run into you if you're around. And we're looking forward to coming back to a absolutely gorgeous venue and playing 2.5 hours of great music.
That is absolutely awesome. It'll be Saturday night. The Outlaws, Henry Paul and the guys right here at Penn's Peak.
PennsPeakRadio.com